incredible. Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today we're driving the 1969 Porsche 911E. The E stood for Einspritzung, pardon my German, I'm sure you'll correct me below, but that stood for injected because this had MFI, mechanical fuel injection. The E replaced the L, and just like today where there's so many 911 models it's hard to keep track of, back then there was a bunch of different variations, and unless you were a purist or a Porsche fanboy, you probably wouldn't have been able to tell them apart. So the higher end of the model would have been the S. The S had, I believe, a higher compression ratio, hotter cams, larger valves, and below this would have been the 911T or the Touring. For those of you who notice all the details, this front valance is from the S, and the rear ducktail, of course, a 73 RS Tribute. What's really cool about these cars, though, is this engine. So back here, we have a 2-liter, just a little 2-liter mechanical fuel injected flat 6. These are very cool, and this owner has done a whole bunch of cool stuff to it. He's even got Fox Racing shocks, remote reservoirs for the rears, and he's mirrored his alignment from the 73 RS. You'll also notice this is the long wheelbase. The long wheelbase car, I believe, was 57 millimeters longer. But don't be fooled by the similar appearance of my 911. It's very different in here. Number one, this has a 901 gearbox. So it's a dogleg, meaning first gear is over and down. And down here, where normally I would just have my 2 heating controls, this is actually a hand throttle. So this is how I can help it idle properly when we get it started. I'll show you that. Of course, 911 Le Mans start. We've got our key in the left, so we can have our hand getting it into gear right away. Nice fuel pump sound. Idle for me, baby. You'll also notice he's got a brake bias thing here, so you can actually change the bias from front to rear. We will not be playing with that today, but we've got it in first gear. Clutch engages right off the floor. It's incredible how hard these pull. You know, back in the day, especially in the late 60s, cars in America would have been all about muscle cars. It would have been about having your Detroit muscle car doing wheel stands, trying to hit that 10-second quarter mile. This in a quarter mile is probably only like a 15-second car on its best day, and with some pretty abusive launches. But that's not what it was about. It was about tearing up back roads and just delivering that light car driving experience. Best thing about a 911 engine, these flat 6s, they just change sound over the course of the rev range. I love the dogleg box because that 2-3 is where all the magic happens. You're really running through those 2 gears the most. So to have those straight up and down in that line makes so much sense for spirited driving. And I'll tell you what, this feels a lot lighter than my 88 Carrera. These brakes, typical 911 feel where you're just pushing on a block of wood. There is not much pedal travel, that's for certain. You just apply more pressure. Something about these earlier cars, man, there is just such a lightness to them that is lost. Even in the 80s cars, they don't feel like this. I think my car probably objectively faster in almost every way, but there's something very simple and playful about these cars that just make them incredible. What would it have been like to drive this back in 1969? I feel like I found the perfect roads for this today. Oh my goodness. This suspension is really something else. My car is really stiff. I mean, my car is pretty much tuned to be like, hey, here's your race car for the street. This one, I feel so much more connected to the road because it's compliant. It doesn't like knock my teeth out over every bump. And to be honest, the cabin is really well screwed together. I'm not gonna say it encourages bad behavior, but I do think you end up going faster than you think you are going. This little car, you know, we're only working with maybe 160 horsepower or so. But she scoots, and it's confident at speed. That's what blows my mind about this thing. You can just actually pitch it into a corner and know you're gonna come out the other end okay. And we're just on these little baby tires. They're skinny on Yokohama S-Drives. It's kind of cool when you put old cars on modern tires. If you read reviews from like Car and Driver back in the day on these cars, they're genuinely terrified to drive them, especially because of the oversteery nature when you lift off the throttle. That rear end gets light. Look at all these birds. Where am I? Are those doves? But I think there's a lot to be said for putting modern tires on these 911s because they become a lot more planted. They're a lot less terrifying to drive. The throttle response with the MFI is immediate. It's really quick because I mean everything's just mapped out right there. It's mechanical. There's nothing to wait for. Wow, that sounds incredible. This is probably the closest I'll ever get to a 73 RS. And I'll tell you what, sometimes you look at those cars and you're like, I don't get it. How is that $1 million? But if it's more than the driving experience of this, it starts to make a lot of sense. I thought I had the cool air-cooled 911. I think I need a 2-liter. Listen to this thing. Oh man, this must look so cool to everybody passing me too because I'm in this tiny little orange car. You've got the 5-speed, so you could drive it out on the highway and do some touring in it, but man, I'm telling you, it fits in really nicely on these little roads. I think the seats are the only thing holding it back a little bit just because it's more like a couch. I'm sitting on a lazy boy. I don't have lateral support where I can pitch it into a corner. I'm sliding around too, but that's all part of the fun. Unlike the 915 gearbox, these synchros, they're not that sensitive. It's really easy to just kind of find your way into the right spot. It's not as tight as the 915. The 915 is really precise, really tight. This is like if you took the 356 Speedster and it had a baby with the 915, this is what you end up with. And compared to the G50 gearbox that I've got in my car, that car feels a little sludgy, I think is the word. You know, everything's like, it kind of dampens you from the experience because it's not quite as precise and finicky as the 915. And it's a good box, it's good, but this is really cool. This really makes me feel like I'm driving a classic. I really think everybody needs a little nimble light car to play with on the back roads. There's no doubt that I'm having more fun in this little 911E than I would be in, let's say, a McLaren 570S or something. I mean, what would be the point? This is what I like about driving. I like little mountain roads. I like tight twisties. I like a light, nimble car that I can feel everything. Maybe back in the 60s, this car would have been a little pretentious, right? I mean, everybody was driving big boats, especially in America. Cars were huge. And you come along and you're a little, 2,200 pound? I'll put an asterisk down there because I'm probably wrong, but sports car from Germany with the engine in the wrong place and a 2-liter engine. I mean, think about that. My dad's Corvette from 1972 has a 454 cubic inch V8. And you're gonna come and tell me that you've got a sports car with a 2-liter 6-cylinder? That's crazy. But if only those people knew what they were missing out on. Man, this guy's gonna love that, yeah. But you've gotta have that context, especially in America, to understand what these cars were back then. Now, I can't compare the E to the S, but what I'm told is that the hotter cam on the 911S made it a little more top-end happy, which is great, except that it makes it mid-range awkward. So I think a lot of folks prefer the drivability of the E to the S, but I cannot say that for certain. I'm just saying what I've heard. Hey, we match! Great color. Always respect the cyclists. They're just out here having a good time too. Which is another point for the 911 for being a nice, enjoyable, nimble car. Because if we're out here in the 600 LT or something, we'd have to be going way too fast to have fun. I don't have to be going that fast to have fun. And remember, this is in kilometers per hour. I'm not doing like 70 miles an hour on this road right now. Unfortunately, I have to go give this car back. I do not want to. I want to drive this for many hours and bond with it. This is my new friend. But what I can say is that these older cars, the 2-liter cars, are fantastic. My goodness, I need to drive a 2.7 car now. I apologize because I feel like I could just drive 911s for the next year and still not run out of 911s to drive because there's so many variations, there's so many changes. Everyone thinks 911s are all the same. They're not. They all have such a distinct personality, and there's so many ways that they differ from each other in noticeable ways. So thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and if you're gonna have an old 911, it might as well be bright orange. So sure, it has a 10,000 RPM tachometer here. I think the owner's original intent for this car was going to be a little 911E race series car. That didn't end up happening, and the values of these just shot up. So there was really no point in doing that. So this one does have the 911S pistons, and it revs to probably 6,800 RPM.